Logan Paul is refunding people he scammed if they promise to stop suing him for the vastly larger amount he may owe them.
I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for how this has unfolded thus far, and I want people to know that they can trust me and that I'll always take care of the fans and people who support me.
Is what Logan is actually offering to refund, on the condition, though, that all of the people who spent the last year suing him for the larger damages drop their case. So that's a refund of only 12% to drop 100% of the case that, as far as I can tell,
Logan Paul is fighting harder than ever to keep something hidden. And according to critics following the case, that alone is raising serious questions. Because right now, Logan and Coffeezilla are locked in a legal battle that keeps getting messier by the week.
Coffeezilla defamation case, the two parties are currently fighting over whether Logan Paul can mark his entire deposition as confidential. And in the last couple of videos that I did on this topic, I talked about how this is actually highly unusual to ask for an entire deposition to be marked confidential. And I talked about how Logan Paul's arguments for why it should be marked confidential.
Court filings are flying back and forth. Lawyers are arguing. And one specific issue has suddenly become the center of attention: a deposition, a sworn testimony that Logan's team reportedly wants kept away from public view. And the harder they push to keep it sealed, the more people want to know what's inside. So what exactly is going on? And why are some legal commentators saying this strategy could actually backfire? At first,
Logan Paul is suing me for CryptoZoo only a year after he thanked me for it. Rather than pay back his victims fully, Logan would rather publicly humiliate himself in court by accusing me of defaming him. He's hired 5 lawyers to sue me, which he hopes will stop me from exposing him again. You see, only hours before this lawsuit was filed, I had reached out to Logan Paul about a new investigation into one of his companies, which has just been accused by the Canadian government of being a multi-layered fraud in Canada. I obviously had questions, but before I was able to get answers, Logan's team of lawyers showed up to silence me. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to go through this lawsuit. I'm going to tell you how to support us if you want, because while I didn't think I'd need help, I was wrong.
At first glance, this might seem like a boring legal dispute, but that's not how the internet sees it. Because this isn't just any lawsuit. This is the latest chapter in the ongoing fallout from CryptoZoo, the project that generated massive controversy online and sparked years of criticism. Now that controversy is back in court, and according to legal commentators covering the case, Logan's team has been aggressively pushing to keep his deposition confidential. For those unfamiliar with legal terminology, a deposition is essentially sworn testimony, no edits, no retakes, no carefully produced YouTube video, just questions and answers under oath. And that's exactly why people are paying attention. Because critics are asking one simple question: if everything is straightforward, why fight so hard to keep it hidden? According to filings discussed by legal analysts online, Logan's legal team presented several arguments for keeping the deposition private.
The Exeter Financial Corporation. But the thing is, although Paul says that there's like this more lenient standard, he doesn't exactly say what that more lenient standard actually is. And there's a very good reason for that. That's because if he did, it would naturally highlight the fact that the one thing that the Fifth Circuit says that Logan Paul needs in order to mark the deposition as confidential is good cause. Specifically, here's exactly what the Fifth Circuit says. In our view, courts should be ungenerous with their discretion to seal judicial records, which plays out in 2 legal standards relevant here. The first standard, requiring only good cause, applies to protective orders sealing documents produced in discovery. And then it goes on and actually says, under both standards, the working presumption is that judicial records should not be sealed. So reading that, the Fifth Circuit is actually pretty clear that Logan Paul's motion should absolutely.
One argument reportedly focused on concerns that information could be shared outside the lawsuit. Another involved concerns about related legal proceedings connected to CryptoZoo. But according to analysts reviewing the filings, many of those arguments faced immediate pushback. Coffeezilla's legal team argued that the standards for sealing court-related materials simply weren't being met, and that's where the debate exploded. Because courts generally favor transparency, especially when it comes to information connected to legal proceedings, which means convincing a judge to keep something entirely sealed isn't always easy. As details spread online, social media immediately went into detective mode. Reddit threads exploded, YouTube channels started posting breakdowns, comment sections filled with theories. Some people believe Logan is simply protecting sensitive legal information. Others think there's something much bigger happening behind the scenes. At this point, nobody outside the legal teams knows exactly what's inside the deposition. But that uncertainty is fueling speculation, and speculation spreads fast online, especially when one of the biggest influencers on the internet is involved. Ironically, the biggest problem may not be the deposition itself. It may be the attempt to keep it hidden. Because every time a new filing appears, every time lawyers argue about confidentiality, every time another hearing takes place, people become even more curious. The story stops being about CryptoZoo and starts becoming about secrecy. That's why many observers believe the strategy could be creating more attention than the deposition would have received on its own. And if that's true, the situation could become a major public relations headache. Right now, one question continues to dominate the conversation. What exactly is in the deposition? If it supports Logan's previous public statements, many wonder why there is such a strong push to keep it confidential. If there are contradictions, critics argue that could explain the concern. The truth is, nobody knows yet. And that's exactly why the story keeps growing. For now, the legal battle continues. The filings continue, the arguments continue, and the internet continues watching. Whether this ends up being a minor legal disagreement or a major blow to Logan Paul's reputation remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, this story is far from over, and the next courtroom update could change everything. Please subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoyed this video.